Hi and welcome to the second part of reflexive verbs. In this second lesson we are going to learn how to actually conjugate reflexive verbs. In our previous lesson we saw that all those verbs ending in se are known as reflexive verbs. The purpose of this lesson is to teach you how we conjugate these verbs. Well, we have three steps to follow. The first step is very easy. We have to remove the se ending from the verb. So if I have the verb comprarse, or if I see the verb comprarse and I want to conjugate, the first thing is to separate for a little bit at least, the se part. Comprarse will become comprar, vestirse will become vestir. Step number 2 involves changing the se ending so that it matches the subject. Every person has a specific reflexive form, and we are going to see which is the particle that belongs to each person. So in other words, we will be changing se to match each of the persons. For yo, we use me, tú, te, nosotros, nos, vosotros, os, and usted, él, ella, ustedes, o ellos, they all share the same form, se. Now let's see how we apply that. Step number 3, we conjugate the verb as usual and add the reflexive particle. We add this. For example, if I want to say, I buy clothes for myself, first I have the verb comprar, I separated the se, then I have to change the ending, this se that I have here, I have to change it so that it matches the subject. In this case I'm saying yo, so for yo is me. And then we conjugate the verb as usual. And we can see that in this case, I put yo me, and I conjugate the verb. The verb comprar in the present is I buy, yo compro. And something to note is that the position of the reflexive particle, if I only have one verb, the position of the reflexive particle is immediately before the verb. If I have two verbs, it's immediately before the first verb. So, yo me compro ropa. So, I remove the se ending, I chose an appropriate form to match the person, yo me, and then I conjugated the sentence, remembering to put the particle immediately before the verb. In the case of sentences with two verbs, for example, I want to buy clothes for myself, we place the particle immediately before the first verb, like here, me quiero comprar ropa, or there's a second option, which is attached to the ending of the second verb, quiero comprarme ropa. So it's important to remember that this is attached, whereas when we place it before the first verb, it's a separate word, a standalone word. When it's in the second verb, when we put it at the end, it is attached to the second verb. Now we are going to see this in action. For example, we take the verb levantarse, and we'll follow these steps. We'll remove the se ending, we'll match se to the subject, and we'll conjugate the verb and add the reflexive particle. Step 1, I take levantarse, I just detached the se ending. The second step is to make the se ending, the se, match the subject. In step 3, we conjugate the verb and add the reflexive particle. For example, if I want to say I get up, I would say yo me levanto. The particle is immediately before the verb. Tú te levantas. Usted, él, ella se levanta. These changes, well, are based on this. If I say nosotros, nos levantamos. Vosotros os levantáis. Ustedes o ellos se levantan. Now, in the case of two verbs, I want to say I want to get up. Yo me quiero levantar. One of the things we saw is that when we have two verbs, we also have two options to place the reflexive particle. Immediately before the first verb or attached to the second verb. Yo quiero levantarme. We'll do the same with all the persons. Tú te quieres levantar, we can see it before the first verb, or tú quieres levantarte, attached to the second verb. Usted, él, ella se quiere levantar, or usted, él, ella quiere levantarse. Nosotros nos queremos levantar, or nosotros queremos levantarnos. Vosotros os queréis levantar. Or, vosotros queréis levantaros. Ustedes o ellos se quieren levantar. O ustedes o ellos quieren levantarse.